Welcome back to Horrifying Stories. In the last episode, we told you about the tragic story of Cary Stayner, who became a hero at 14 years old. Stephen managed to escape with Timothy White from their kidnapper, who disguised as Stephen's father after 7 long years of putting up with him. Now, you might think nothing else could possibly go worse for the Stayners. The worst has already happened, or so we thought. This family seemed to have opened Pandora's box, because many years after Stephen died in the accident, the Stayners were once again completely caught by surprise. This is the second of the 2-part story about the Stayner family's worst nightmare. Cary Stayner, Stephen's older brother, is on the death row, guilty with 4 counts of first-degree murder. Also known as the Yosemite Killer, he mercilessly killed 4 women. This is their horrifying story. Viewer discretion is advised. Cary Stayner was born on August 13, 1961, and was just 11 years old when his brother Stephen disappeared. The Stayner family was devastated by the loss, and their lives were consumed by the search for Stephen. For the next 7 years, they were relentlessly focused on hoping, praying, and searching for any sign that he might still be alive. Their dedication was finally rewarded when in 1980, Stephen miraculously returned home, bringing an end to their years of uncertainty and despair. Delbert and Kay Stayner, their parents, moved mountains for Stephen, all at the expense of their 4 other children. The highest price. Cary Stayner. Around the same time that Stephen died in the motorcycle accident, Cary had already been living with his uncle Jesse. Apparently, it turned out that his uncle Jesse had been molesting Cary and his cousins. It was also with his uncle Jesse that Cary learned to use illegal substances. Tragedy didn't spare Uncle Jesse's life too. He was murdered in 1990 using his own gun, just 1 year after Stephen died. The murder case remained unresolved, but reports say that the culprit might have been a burglar. Meanwhile, Cary continued to smoke weed and started to experience acute paranoia, but it didn't stop him from smoking. 7 years later, he moved to El Portal after being hired as a maintenance guy at a local motel called Cedar Lodge, which was just near the Arch Rock entrance to the famous Yosemite National Park. While living off-grid in a cabin, he became deeply fascinated with Bigfoot, a mythical creature that lives in the forests of North America. He believes Bigfoot does exist, and he became passionately obsessed with finding Bigfoot. He has convinced himself that he will one day find the monster. Cary had a good rapport with his co-workers at Cedar Lodge and was known for being skilled at his job. But everything changed one fateful night when a steady, persistent knock came at the door of room 509, where 42-year-old Carol Sund, her 15-year-old daughter Julie Sund, and 16-year-old family friend Silvina Palazzo were enjoying their vacation. It was Cary at the door, claiming there was an issue with the bathroom that needed immediate attention. Since it was already 11 p.m., Carol was wary and didn't open the door at first. She checked the bathroom and informed Cary through the door that she saw no leaks or issues. But Cary persisted, and in a moment of misplaced trust, Carol made the fatal decision to open the door. As soon as he got in the door, he took out his gun and locked the 2 young girls in the bathroom. He then went to Carol and strangled her to death before dragging her into the trunk of the family's rented car. He went back to the room and assaulted the 2 girls. Then she killed Silvina Palazzo after she started screaming and was not cooperating, and he took her body to the trunk of the rented car with Carol's body. Cary went back in and sexually abused Julie for a few hours inside the hotel room. He then took Julie in the car and drove about 90 miles from Yosemite to Don Pedro Lake. He took Julie out of the car and brought her to another location, and around sunrise, Cary slit Julie's throat. He then called a cab to get back to Cedar Lodge, and before he alighted, he asked the cab driver if he believes in Bigfoot. The cab driver quickly answered no. But Cary then eerily replied, "Well, you should." For Cary and his fantasies, Bigfoot now transcends reality, as Bigfoot is the real Cary Stayner, his hidden dark side. His obsession with Bigfoot was his obsession with his own dark side, which he tried so hard to control and resist, but now, this secret and evil personality has unfortunately come to light. A few days later, he went back to where he left the car and burned it to hide all the evidence. A man hunting in the woods later found bodies of 2 women in a car completely burned and unrecognizable. Then, the police obtained a handwritten map leading them to the location of the 3rd woman's body. With the map was a note that read, "We had fun with this one." The burnt bodies were later identified through forensic dentistry to be that of Carol Sund and Silvina Palazzo, while the 3rd body was that of Julie Sund. During the investigation, Cary was one of those summoned by the police. However, due to his clear criminal record and his consistently calm disposition all throughout, he was able to dodge those scrutinizing eyes. Thinking he must have gotten away with it, in July 1999, just 5 months after Cary's first killings, another woman's beheaded body was found in a creek. It was that of a 26-year-old named Joey Ruth Armstrong, who was then working at Yosemite Institute as a naturalist. She was getting ready for a trip to go hiking with her friends, and while she was packing her car, Cary approached her and forced her inside the house and bound her. He then put her back to the car, but she was able to jump out. But having been bound, she was not able to run away from him. Cary tackled her and he cut her throat. Witnesses have testified of spotting a blue 1979 International Scout parked outside cabin. The car was traced back to Cary. Cary was arrested late July, after a woman at the nudist camp where he was hiding had reported him to the authorities upon knowing he was on the wanted list. After searching his car, the FBI found strong evidence implicating Cary to the crime. During the interrogation, Cary not only admitted to the murder of Joey but also took responsibility for the 3 women's murder earlier that year. He also admitted to sending the map and the note that paved the way for the police to retrieve Julie's body. Cary pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. His defense justified that the Stayner family's long history of mental disorders and sexual abuse caused him to have an obsessive-compulsive disorder or OCD, and ultimately led him to the commitment of the crime. A forensic psychiatrist designated by the court diagnosed Cary with mild autism, OCD, and paraphilia. Cary's childhood, even before Stephen's abduction, was far from idyllic. To his classmates, he was always known as the creative one. During that stage of life when everyone wonders what they'll be when they grow up, many believed Cary would become a cartoonist or graphic artist. Friends at Merced High and his co-workers at Cedar Lodge described him as an introvert, more of a loner who kept to himself. But beneath that quiet exterior, Cary was grappling with deep inner demons that no one suspected. Since the age of 7, he harbored disturbing fantasies about killing women. Some who knew him even recalled moments when he mentioned hearing voices, but these unsettling signs were either overlooked or dismissed. There were glimpses of his darker side, like the time he stripped naked in front of his sister's friends. But no one could have imagined the extent of his hidden turmoil, or that it would one day lead to such horrific acts. A week before the murder of the 3 women, Cary could no longer contain himself. He bought a rope, knife, camera, gun, and duct tape, preparing the toolkit for the fulfillment of his hidden fantasies. This wasn't his first attempt, though. He also admitted to almost killing his girlfriend and her 2 daughters just a year prior to the murders, but the victims were spared because of the presence of a male caretaker. In another attempt, there were 4 other young girls as his target, but his plan blew up when he knew an adult male was with them. In 2001, despite the plea for insanity, the jury found Cary Stayner sane and charged him on 4 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to death on December 12, 2002. In California, Cary is the 617th convict on death row and is currently in San Quentin Penitentiary. Making it to the headlines can be a possibility for any family, or any person for that matter. However, for one family to make it to the headlines twice for two different and contrasting instances is a whole new story. Many have perceived that Cary Stayner's story was a product of envy, tired of being constantly on the sidelines. Maybe he wanted the spotlight on him too, but Stephen got all the attention. From their family, from their community, the media, and the country. Maybe he wanted a taste of that publicity. Indeed, in the end, he got what he wanted, not as a hero but as a serial killer. Even more astoundingly creepy was that one time he told one of the first reporters who covered his case that Hollywood should create a movie of his story too. When Cary was asked what his message was to the family he murdered, he said, "I would like to tell the families that I am sorry that their loved ones were where they were when they were." It was as if he was trying to convince the reporter that he was a hero for restraining all these impulses and fantasies since he was a child. It's no question, there's this innate wickedness within all of us, just waiting to be uncovered. In Cary's case, he became the Bigfoot that he was so madly obsessed about. The real monster living in the forest whom everyone must fear. If you haven't seen part 1 of this story yet, you might want to click the link on the upper right corner to check out Stephen Stayner's horrifying story. Thank you so much for making it this far. We would greatly appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and like our video. We are grateful for your support. Again, thank you, and see you on the next one.